Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Nature Chronicles with Samir. This time we wander into the heart of the wild, where silence speaks and every ripple, rustle and wing beat reveals nature in all her glory and abundance. Come, let's listen closer and begin. Studio Point in Sattal is a hidden gem for wildlife enthusiasts and bird watchers alike. Nestled in the heart of a lush forest, this location offers an unparalleled experience of nature, with a vibrant call of exotic bird species echoes throughout the year. But Studio Point has more to offer. Few know that further down the same track lies a waterfall, tucked away in the heart of the wilderness. It's a place where nature's serenity meets the thrill of discovery. However, be mindful, the descent to the waterfall is quite tricky and demands caution. Families with small children should take extra care. And remember, this forest is also home to leopards, prowling in search of their favorite prey, the deer. It's best to avoid venturing alone and always ensure you are in the company of others to fully enjoy this unique yet wild adventure. So whether you are here for the birds, the tranquil waterfall or the untamed forest, Studio Point in Sattal is an experience you won't forget. Let the wonders of nature inspire you, but do tread carefully to preserve its beauty. Happy exploring. In the heart of the forest, where sunlight catches the shimmer of flowing fresh water, nature has carved out a sanctuary. The gentle stream winds through mossy stones, its cool current a lifeline in the summer heat. Drawn by the sound and sparkle, the black bulbul arrives. Alert and elegant, perched on a nearby branch, it scans the scene before fluttering down for a sip. This is more than a drink. It's a ritual, a moment of refuge. For birds like this, clean flowing water offers more than hydration. It's safety from predators, clarity for bathing, and a cooling balm during the warmest hours. In places like these, the forest breathes, and life, feathered and fleeting, find its rhythm. A veil of silence drapes the jungle as a barking deer steps cautiously into view. From the thickets it emerges, body taut, ears sharpened by instinct. Every rustle, every breeze is a question it must answer before moving closer to the water's edge. Then, in the clearing bathed in sunlight, another scene unfolds. A young deer, wide-eyed and still learning, drinks freely from the stream. Unaware of watchful eyes or unseen footsteps, it indulges in the cool relief of the moment. But peace here is fragile. A sudden sound, distant yet jarring, cuts through the stillness. The juvenile freezes. Then bolts, vanishing into the emerald shadows, where the forest folds secrets into silence once more. Unseen at first, while my lens wandered elsewhere, the Tickle's blue flycatcher found its own quiet corner. With not a fuss nor flutter, it slipped into the stream, bathing unbothered. A private ritual carried out in peace, as if the forest itself had granted it a moment of invisibility. In silence, my gaze wandered once more, sweeping across the shaded stones and rippling stream. And there, almost hidden by light and leaf, the blue-capped rock thrush revealed itself. Still and serene, at the end of the far bank, it bathed with quiet purpose. A flick of feathers, a shimmer of blue and orange. No fanfare, no urgency, just a brief communion with the water and the moment. The stream holds its breath once more, gentle ripples softened by time and stillness, and then, slipping in from the edge of the frame, the ashy drongo appears. Sleek and spectral, it lowers its head to sip, precise and unhurried. Moments later, another presence joins, the Himalayan bulbul. No clash of wings or calls of alarm, just a pause shared. Two birds, side by side, brought together not by flock or food, but water. A fleeting moment of coexistence, lit by light and silence. Away from the main flow, tucked in the tangled green, the cluttered shrubbery no longer just background but a sanctuary, sat the black-throated bush-tit, silent, still. It had already danced in the water, now came the quieter work. Each feather, each barbed strand, pulled into place with patient care, not a movement wasted. The world passed gently beyond. Yet here, in this secret corner, time moved to the rhythm of grooming, slow, deliberate, meticulous. In its preening, there was no vanity, only instinct, a daily ritual of survival, comfort, and quiet pride. It began with a flicker, just a stir in the corner of my eye. And there it was, the common hill miner, bold and unmistakable, mid-bath and utterly immersed. Not a cautious dip or a delicate sprinkle. This was full-hearted, wing flaring, head dunking joy. It splashed with purpose, shook with rhythm, as if every droplet flung into the air could carry away the weight of the heat. The day had pressed hard, and now the mana was pressing back, one exhilarating soak at a time. You could feel its relief, wings outstretched, feathers slick, a glint in the eye that said, This, this was the moment it had waited for. Not just a bath, a celebration. And then, from the tangle of twigs and trunks, came one of the forest's smallest wonders, the chestnut-bellied nuthatch. Light as a leaf, it hopped from perch to perch, each move precise, each pause a scan of its world. Eventually, it found what it sought, a shallow cradle of water tucked among a bed of withered leaves. There it drank, but not freely. Even in this fleeting act, its eyes stayed sharp, ever alert to shadows and rustles. The forest, though serene, keeps no promises, and even the tiniest beauty knows to sip is to risk. Yet, still it sips. The forest doesn't speak in words, it speaks in rustles, ripples, and quiet arrivals. And if you wait long enough, really wait, it begins to show you things. Just as the forest seemed to settle into stillness and monotony crept in like fog, there it was, the dark-sided thrush, slipping into view as if conjured. No sound announced it. Only the faintest flicker, the lightest rustle gave it away. It moved with purpose, hopping and skipping softly, beak turning over dry leaves in search of life beneath decay. Every step quiet, every glance alert. Had my eyes wandered a moment longer, I would have missed it entirely. Some call it a skulker, a shadow among shadows, but out here, it felt more like Houdini. One heartbeat it was there, the next gone, as if the forest had only imagined it. As the day stretches and the light softens, the stream slows too. Footsteps fade. Even the birds grow quieter, their songs traded for silhouettes. And just as the hush settled once more, another shimmer caught my eye. Low to the ground, scanning the leaf litter like a well-versed forager. The emerald dove, a surprise visitor, cloaked in green and calm. It moved with practiced grace, every step careful, every glance deliberate. The grey-headed canary flycatcher, bold in yellow and grey, dipped briefly into the stream, then vanished just as suddenly into the thicket. But not for long. From a sliver of light it reappeared, perched and alert, beginning its delicate ritual. Preening, swift strokes, no motion wasted. Each feather tendered like a thread in a tapestry. No time to linger, no step unmeasured. As it worked, a new layer folded into the soundscape, the resonant call of a rufous-throated partridge echoing from the undergrowth, distant yet clear. A low, throaty note, almost like a beckoning, perhaps a mate, perhaps just presence. Yet, even in that chorus, the little flycatcher remained focused, quick, precise, untamed. And then, as supplely as it had arrived, it melted back into the green, leaving only the sound of wings remembered and the forest's hush resumed. No knock, no call, no flash of color demanding notice. The grey-headed woodpecker arrived without ceremony, melting into the stillness like it belonged to the stone and stream. Perched low, it sipped, not drilling, not darting, just drinking quietly. And for those few seconds, the forest gave it cover, and I had the chance to witness the gentle side of a name known for noise. He began bathing. Well, not bathing in the true sense, not the deliberate, thorough kind you'd expect. No, this was drama. The sort of flamboyant splashing we all did in our childhoods, under watchful eyes, just enough to satisfy the grown-ups. Each flick, each shake of tiny wings seemed more performance than necessity, a royal ritual staged for no one, and yet for everything. Water flew, feathers fluffed, sunlight caught in the spray. And then, just as swiftly, he was off, restless, radiant, and already searching for his next birth. And then the one we waited for, the Indian paradise flycatcher, in its rufous regalia, swept in like a prince returning to familiar waters. It didn't pause to be admired. Perched above the stream, it scanned with restless grace, head tilting, tail twitching, energy coiled in its frame. Then a dive. A quick return to its perch, another pause, another scan. Each move choreographed like instinctual theatre, and just when it seemed it was gone, a flutter, and it returned. The same branch, the same light, but this time different. No haste now, no dash. It lingered, pranced, almost danced, watching, waiting. The forest had softened its rhythm, and the prince no longer hurried. In that moment, the stream stood still, because royalty does not rush. At the stream's quiet fringe, barely stirring the stillness, a pair of Indian white eyes appeared, soft as whispers in green. They dipped and drank, side by side, in perfect symmetry. No alarm, no rush, just a quiet communion at the water's edge, two tiny glints of gold and olive, sipping from the forest's silence. My mind wandered, my eyes closed, a brief surrender to stillness. And when I opened them, there it was, a college pheasant, masculine, radiant, had emerged silently from the forest veil. No fanfare, no alarm, just there, sipping from the stream as though it had always belonged. It moved with trust, not because it knew I was watching, but perhaps because it didn't. Camouflaged in shadow, I stayed utterly still, and the bird lingered, unhurried, unbothered, its soft beak tipping into the water with a curious grace. It looked, dare I say, adorable, a contradiction to its noble form. And then another joined. A second male, as silent as the first, emerged from the undergrowth. Now two stood at the water's edge, side by side, drinking as if in quiet conversation. 20 minutes passed, no chase, no tension. Just three beings, two birds and one breathless observer, suspended in the same hush, bound by water and wonder. A burst of shrill calls tore through the canopy, alarm spreading like wildfire. Then, just as swiftly, silence, complete, watchful. From the shadows, the reason emerged, a langur, slow, assured, descending to the water's edge as the jungle held its breath. After a quiet stretch, it came, sharp, clear, unmistakable. The shrill call of the lesser yellow-naped woodpecker rang through the woods, pulling me back from my pause. There it was, right at the water's edge, calling and sipping in the same breath, as though it had no time to separate voice from thirst. Then, with a sudden leap, it dropped into the shallow stream, not to bathe, not in haste, but to sit, to drink, to be. Perched amid the coolness, it tilted forward, beak touching surface. Again and again it drank, droplets cascading from its bill, catching the light like falling beads. No performance, just need, just presence. For those few moments, the forest soundscape folded around it. One bird, one pool, and a chorus of falling water. Some visitors surprised not by arrival but by how briefly they stay. The orange-bellied leafbird, a flash of lime and flame, swept in with barely a sound, urgency in every feather. It dipped low to sip the cool waters, paused, then flung itself into a shallow bath, quick, decisive, almost unsure whether to linger or leave again. And yet it returned, same perch, same posture, now in full view. There it began to preen, each stroke purposeful, feathers flicked back into place, glistening in the filtered light. One more dip, one more flash of color, and once again it perched. Still just a minute, but what a minute is worth. The orange-headed thrush, hidden in the clutter of dead twigs, watched, unmoving, nearly invisible unless you already knew where to look. Then a quiet step forward, cautious, deliberate. It moved towards the stream's far edge, choosing distance over exposure. There it drank, measured sips, every drop shadowed by vigilance. It vanished again, just as carefully, then returned from a different path, still wary. Each reappearance was a test of trust, always scanning, always choosing safety first. When it finally stepped into the water, It bathed in intervals, a flick of wings, a pause, stillness, scanning, then movement again, as though the act of bathing too required permissions from the forest around. It wasn't just a bird, it was a quiet lesson in presence, of how to be seen only when you choose to be. And then a sudden stir towards the far edge. A hidden flock of red-billed elusives, tucked beyond watchful eyes, erupted into motion, splashing, flitting, dipping. They bathed with the urgency of joy, eager to wash the warmth away, like children set loose in summer rain. Among all the vivid flashes and rare arrivals came a reminder that some of the most remarkable acts belong to the ones we often overlook. The red-wattled lapwing, familiar, almost forgotten, stepped into view. Wading through the shallow stream with long-legged elegance, its eyes scanned the waterline with unbroken focus. In and out it moved, gently probing the muddy bed, each step slow, deliberate, and then stillness. A single pause, the moment before movement. With perfect timing, it struck, beak plunging cleanly into the marshy floor, and up it came, not just with water, but with a prize. A snail, swiftly claimed and just as swiftly consumed. No fanfare, no waste, only precision. It reminded me, even in the daily there is mastery. Even the common carries wonder, if only we pause long enough to watch. There are birds that arrive with brilliance, and then there are those that seem woven into the forest floor itself. The rufous-chinned laughing thrush came like that, unnoticed at first, perfectly dressed in the palette of fallen leaves. Not a sound betrayed it, no rustle, no flit, just presence. It stepped to the water's edge in silence and stayed, sipping without urgency, lingering longer than most. Every tilt of its head, every sip, carried a stillness that felt rehearsed by the woods themselves. It might have stayed hidden entirely had another thrush not broken the hush, stirring it to move. And even then, it slipped away as it came, quietly, completely, as if the forest had imagined. While all eyes, including mine, were busy tracing the thrush through the undergrowth, another act had quietly stolen the show. The rufous sepia, soaked, shimmering, and utterly unbothered, perched above the stream like a dancer catching her breath between routines. Water dripped from its feathers, its crest bobbed, and then the show began. A full body shake, a head tilt, a shimmy of feathers, and an enthusiastic tail flick that would rival the best choreographers. It wasn't just drying off, it was performing. This one had style, no frantic splashing, no quick exit. It bathed, perched, wagged, and preened again and again. Not for survival, but dare I say, for satisfaction. Beauty conscious? Absolutely. Health conscious? Certainly. Each round was followed by careful grooming. Feathers fluffed, arranged, admired. If birds had mirrors, this one would have taken a selfie. And when it was finally done, after more dips than any other visitor that day, it looked radiant, proud, the forest's freshest face. A moment of flair and self-care, feathered and fabulous. As the curtain closed on the Sebia's lively display, a new actor entered, quieter, cloaked in earth tones, but no less captivating. The rusty-cheeked scimitar babbler, curved beak, keen eye, stepped to the stream like a sentinel. It drank without haste, perched with purpose, scanning the margins as though reading an invisible map. Once quenched, it turned, heading towards the dry vegetation, where the forest floor rustled with promise. There, it began its methodical search, turning over leaves and twigs, hunting through the debris with delicate precision. Every moment was considered, every glance sharp. It wasn't showy, It didn't need to be. Some birds dazzle, this one investigates, revealing in its own way how the forest is not just watched but studied quietly from within. How could they stay away when the stream had already welcomed so many? The oriental turtle doves came quietly, no flourish, no fuss, just a gentle descent to the water's edge, as if pulled not by thirst but by instinct. And they didn't bathe, not in the usual sense. They immersed, slowly, fully, letting the coolness rise around them like a memory remembered. It wasn't a cleansing, it was a surrender. Their movements were delicate, deliberate, sending out soft ripples that glimmered in the morning light, and then stillness, absolute. There they sat, reflected in the water almost perfectly, motionless doves mirrored by motionless light, as if the stream had become both painter and canvas. In those moments, they didn't just drink or bathe, they belonged to the water, to the quiet, to the story. The straighted laughing thrush arrived as if out of obligation. No fanfare. A single bird, stepping quietly into the stream, not to bathe, not to linger, just to drink. It perched low, dipping its beak gently, sip by sip. No haste, no indulgence, only thirst, tended with care. And then, just as deliberately, it moved to a branch above. A pause to clean its beak, brushing it back and forth in measured strokes. A final gesture, a closing act. There was no bath, no flutter, no drama. Just this brief, deliberate communion. Water, movement, departure. Not every visit needs a ritual. Sometimes presence alone writes its own verse and then moves on. Among all the visitors, this one brought a quiet kind of charm. Not showy, not rare, just irresistibly endearing. The Tickle's thrush arrived in a flutter, wasting no time. Straight into a hurried bath, wings flicking, water flying, like a child given just a few stolen minutes of play. And then, as if remembering its purpose, it moved to dry ground, eye sharp, instincts sharper. Foraging began, beak to leaf, leaf to earth. It dug, plunged, hopped, sniffed, a rhythm only thrushes seemed to know. It was a study in focus and movement. No movement was wasted, no patch left unturned. Even its way of drinking carried intent. Beak dipping swiftly, water drawn in with surprising force, as if it knew the value of each drop. It wasn't the rarest bird that day, but it may have been the most sincere, teaching without knowing how even the everyday can be quietly remarkable. Gone in 3 seconds, but what a blaze of blue those seconds held. Not all blues vanish in a blink. The verditer flycatcher lingered, just long enough for the stream to catch its color. Perched above the water, calm and crystalline, it sipped in silence, leaving behind only a ripple and a shade of sky in memory. No forest story is complete without the liveliest of them all, the white-throated fantail. It darted in from the thickets, tail fanned, energy untamed. A blur at the edge, it danced and flicked, never still, never silent. And then, in a heartbeat, it was there, at the stream, frolicking with the urgency only a fantail understands. A flit, a flick, and the moment was already past. And to bring the curtain down, who else but the white-throated laughing thrush, theatrical as ever, arriving like a reluctant performer being coaxed into rehearsal. She stepped into the stream with exaggerated steps, wing flared, feathers flying, not so much bathing as protesting the idea of it. A splash here, a twitch there, every motion dramatic enough for a forest stage. But then, just beyond the spray, a juvenile sat perched, still watching, not imitating, just marveling. You could almost sense its amusement, not yet burdened by routines, simply learning by observation. Thank you for walking beside me on this journey, for watching with patience, for listening between the wing beats, for noticing the unnoticed. The stream will flow long after the shutter fades, but for a while we were there, still, silent, and deeply present. If this story stirred something in you, I hope you'll like, subscribe, and share it, so that others too may slow down and listen. Until the next call from the wild, I'll be waiting by the water.